Kalbas savo, Menzinksit. Okay, so it starts here. אמר רבי יוחנן, מהי דכתיב, אשרי אדם מפחד תמיד ומקשה לבו ייפול ברעה. Rabbi Yochanan asks, what is the meaning of saying in Mishlei, אשרי אדם, happy is the person that is fierce every time, which sounds contradictory, because happiness and fear is the opposite, right? Sports science?
Yeah.
What sports science says about it? ומקשה ליבו ייפול ברע. So the opposite of מפחד תמיד is מקשה ליבו. מקשה ליבו, it means person that is very confident about himself and knows what he is doing. ייפול ברע, he would fall into trouble. So I guess מפחד תמיד is the person that it's not sure 100% what he is doing. He have some doubts. It's called mefached tamid. So this is the person that is in doubt. So he is ashrei. We could translate blessed, because it means that he is open-minded and ready to change, and that's why he would be successful. So this is my explanation. Maksheh libo, it means the person that sure for 100% what he needs to do. So it means we talked about it in Shabbat, wisdom and knowledge. So Maksheh libo, it means that he thinks that he knows everything. So this is why he might go into some trouble, because he's not ready to change. So this is just my explanation of this verse. So Rabbi Yochanan asks, what is the meaning of this verse? And after it, it would be an explanation about what it is about, Akamsa ubar Kamsa. So this verse talks about Kamsa and Bar Kamsa, Haruv Yerushalayim. So Jerusalem was destroyed because of Kamsa and Bar Kamsa. This is the one episode that we are going to learn. The second episode is about Ternegola and Ternegolta, the chicken and the male chicken.
Roster.
Oh, roster, yes. The chicken and the roster, it was the reason that Turmalka was destroyed. Turmalka, I guess it's the name of the mountain, or the name of the city. Shaka deris pak haru Beitar. And Beitar was destroyed because of Shaka deris pak. I don't know these words in Aramaic. Didn't translate it here. In Hebrew, it's Agala. Now, in village, you see sometimes a horse with the cargo and wheels. So this was the reason of destroying Beitar. So it's just a hint for the story, and the story we will discuss in a short time. So first we learned yesterday about Kamsa and Bar Kamsa. So one person was hating Bar Kamsa and loves Kamsa, and he invited Kamsa, but by mistake came Bar Kamsa. So the person was trying to get rid of Bar Kamsa, and Bar Kamsa was saying that I'm ready to pay for all of your expenses, but still the person was insisting that you need to leave. So he threw him out of the meal. That's why Bar Kamsa wanted to revenge, because he thought that the rabbis that was here, he didn't stand for him, and this means that the rabbis are accepting this hate. That's why Bar Kamsa decided to do a revenge. So Bar Kamsa talked to the Caesar and said that Jews rebelled against you, and the Caesar asked why you decided it. So Bar Kamsa said you should send Karban offering for the Jewish temple and see if they would accept this offering. So if they would not accept, it means that they are rebelling against him. And that Caesar accepted this idea and sent the offering, but Bar-Kamsa do the trick that did some damage to this animal. But regular man would not see this damage because it was very thin and very small, and only in the temple, the specialists, they would recognize it. So the rabbis was discussing, should we bring this offering? And first they wanted to bring it because to make peace with the government, with the authorities. But then Rabbi Zcharia ben Avkilos, he said some doubt about it. And what was the doubt? The doubt was that if we would bring this offering, people could think something wrong about Torah, that we could bring an offering with the mum, with the floor. And that's why they didn't bring it. And Rabbi Yochanan ends the story with his saying, "Anvetanuto shel Rabbi Zcharia ben Avkilos." So Rabbi Zcharia ben Avkilos, he was acting like a righteous man, but his righteousness, it was the reason of destroying the temple, because he didn't act in the interests of peace. Like we talked yesterday, we need to change our normal behavior in interests of peace. So this is why our temple was destroyed, and this is why we are not on our land anymore, in the galut, in the exile. Yes. But this is not the end of the story. This is what we learned yesterday. But the story continues. Shadar alayhu Neron Kisar. If you heard about Neron, it was a crazy emperor in the Roman Empire that burned the city, right? Famous story. So Neron, with his armies, goes in the direction of Jerusalem to conquer it, because Caesar thinks that Jews are rebelling, right? So we need to kill the rebels. This is why the Roman army goes towards Jerusalem. But Neron was not sure about this mission, so he wanted to do some magic trick. We call it in Hebrew nachash. Nachash, гадание по-русски. So, for example, if you go to some oracle and you're not sure what, yes, the stars here, you're not sure what you need to do, so you ask, and he does some future teller, and he does some magic ritual, and he tells you should do or not do. So Neron was making a magic ritual with his bow and arrows, and he was shooting with the bow. So he was shooting in the direction of east, and the arrow fell in the direction of Jerusalem. So it was like compass. And he was shooting in the direction of west, but still the arrow fell the direction of Jerusalem, and he was doing it to all the four directions, to the north and to the west and to the east and to the south, but still the arrow was falling in the direction of Jerusalem. Amar Leinuka. So it was the first magical trick. It's not exactly magic, it's a subtype of magic, but it's not real magic. То есть по-русски мы разделяем, есть колдовство, а есть гадание. It's not that he casted a spell, which is exact magic, but it is close to magic. It's what fortune teller does, some tricks, and he believes that this trick tells him the future. But it's not exactly magic, right? And the second trick that he did is a more religious trick. If you don't know what to do, and you could ask a young boy that he learned Torah in Cheder, in Talmud Torah, and you should ask him psok li psuker. please tell me the verse that you learned today. And based on the verse, you could calculate your intentions are good, going to be successful or not. So this is what Neron did. And the boy said the verse from Yechezkel, "Venatati et nikmati be'edom biyad ami Israel." So we need to translate it correctly because it has several subjects of action. So we need to understand the exact meaning. So we could try to translate it first. And so this is the words of the prophet, which is the words of God. And I will give my revenge be-edom, be-yad ami Israel. So this be, it's double time here, and it looks like every time it have different meaning, because be should mean the object that you're working with. For example, we will learn Hebrew now. I could beat the chair with my smartphone, for example, right? But I could, in Hebrew, in Old Hebrew, I could use be in both times. So, hika bekise be telephone. So the word be means the object and the subject. So in this verse, we need to understand what is the object and what is the subject. So this is the revenge. Beyad ami Israel. Be'edom. So we will learn it like the Neron understood. Maybe his understanding was not correct, but we will learn it like he understood. That the revenge upon the nation of Israel, God gives to the hand of Edom. So basically, the Edom, which is the Romans, which is Neron, should do the revenge of God to the nation of Israel. And then the Neron describes how he understood this boy and this verse. How you say this in English usually? The saint one? The saint blessed he. So Hashem, God wants to destroy his temple, but God doesn't want to destroy with his own hands, and he wants to do it with the hands of the certain person, which means Neron. So Neron understands that it is a trick by God. So it is a trap, basically, because if he would destroy, he would be responsible. But just God doesn't want to be responsible for this action. That's why he wanted to do it with non-Jewish person. And that's why Neron Arad ve'azil ve'igayer. So Neron left his army and he left this place. And he did Giyur, converted, Venafat Mine Rabbi Meir. So Rabbi Meir went from him, I guess it was one of his sons or grandsons. So this is the end of the story with Neron. But still, the Romans needs to calm down the Jewish nation and the rebellion. That's why they sent another person with his army, legionnaire, and his name was Aspasianus Caesar. So Aspasianus came to Jerusalem and did siege. So he sieged the city of Jerusalem for Tlatshani, 3 years. And now Talmud tells us the story about the siege of the city. So it's a very interesting story. So it was 3 sponsors that was helping Jewish nation within the siege within Jerusalem. First was Nagdimon ben Gurion. Third was Kalba Savua. It's very funny names. And third was Ben Tzitzit HaKesed. And the Gemara explains his names. So I guess it's might be not their names in the passport. It's just like people was calling them based on some famous story behind them. And why name of the first was not Gimon but Gurion, Shnagda Lachama Ba'avuho. Because it was one story when the sun stands for him. Nagda. Ben Kalba Savoa, the son of Kalba. Kalba means Kelev, hound, dog. Savoa means. So this is why I have this translation to English, because sometimes I forget some words. So сытость, как сказать сытость?
Like sitting.
А?
That's sitting человек.
Ага.
Exactly. That's like it's hungry or not.
Oh, we can say it in German also.
Exactly.
Gesättigt. Oh. So son, der Sohn vom der gesättigt Hund. Ben Kalba Savo, сын сытой собаки. Why his name was Ben Kalba Savo? Because everyone that was coming for his house and he was hungry, like the dog, when he was leaving his house, he was Saver. So this was the second rich man, and the third one was Ben Tzitzit HaKesed. So it is the most understandable explanation, Ben Tzitzit HaKesed, because Tzitzit, it means when your clothes have some parts in it that are longer than the main part of your clothes, and and the rich man, when he was going on the street, so the streets, and that's why he was needed some carpets. So he was that rich that every time when he was going somewhere, he had carpets underneath his garments. Right? And the other explanation why the name is Ben Tzitzit HaKesed, because his clothes was in between big Roman, famous Roman persons. I guess he have some special Roman garment, special style, and because of it, he could go to Senate to be part of discussion there. So it was some famous rich politic. Chad Amar Lehu. So now Talmud explains each of the persons what was his proposal, how to save Jewish people in Jerusalem from starvation. Chad Amar Lehu Ana Zayan Lehu Bechite Vesari. So the first said, I would give them grains of wheat and barley. Vechad Amar Lehem Bidechamra Umilcha Umishcha. The second said, I would give them alcohol, salt, and mishcha, olive oil. And the third said to them, be the tzivri. Tzivri, it means the wood for the bakery, for example, and for heating. Veshamcho rabodon lid tzivri. And the sages, the rabbis, was very happy about the wood. The Rab Hizda kol aklidei hava masar l'shami bar mitzvi. So it just shows the wisdom of rabbis, why the wood is the most important thing. I guess the reason behind it is because if you have a lot of grain, but you don't have wood, you could not cook the bread, right? So you need the wood to make fire. And without the wood, even if you had a lot of grain, it would not help because you could not eat the grain. And just the story here, additional story. Rav Hizda, he had a lot of servants, and for his servants he was giving his keys, but every key except for one key, except the key for the wood room. The Amar Rav Hizda akalba the hite by shitin akalbi the tzivi. some expression in Aramaic which explains it. So if you have one room full of grain, you need 60 rooms full in order to make the bread. So the most important thing that in this siege of Jerusalem, Jewish still had a lot of food, and they could be besieged for 21 years. And when I was telling this for someone else, he thought that I am mistaken, and it should be 21 months. But Talmud said years. So what happened next? So now it comes the bad character of this story. It's called Biryoni. So Biryoni is the rebel ones. And Rabis was intended to make peace with Romans, but the rebel ones was against it, and they was interrupting the rabbis that wanted to negotiate with Romans about peace. So the rabbis was inside of Jerusalem, and in order to negotiate about peace, you need to go outside to the Romans, right? But these rebel ones didn't let rabbis to go outside. So the rebel ones was they wanted to go outside also, but not to make peace, to make war. But rabbis was against it, and they say it would not help to make war because you would lose the war, because Romans was the greatest army at that time. Kamu kalinhu lahanhu amberei hite visari vehavu kafnan. So rebel ones and rabbis, they didn't find the common solution for everyone, and that's why the rebels destroyed all the grain in Jerusalem, and then the starvation started. Marta בת בייטוס עתירת לירושלים רביה שדרת לשלוחה אמר לי זיל אייטלי סמידה. This is the story, additional story about some rich woman that wanted to eat something, and he used to eat very white bread and not dark bread. So she was seeking for white bread, and since she was very rich, she didn't walk herself. She sent some messenger, her servant. So while the servant was walking and looking for the white bread, there was no more white bread. So the servant comes back and said to her that there is no more white bread. So then Martha said, you should bring me dark bread, which was not considered that good quality. And while he was seeking, there was no more dark bread. And then she said, maybe you could find a flour. If not bread, then you can find a flour, and we will make bread by ourselves. And he was looking, and he didn't find it also. So this woman was very desperate, and that's why she decided to go herself to look for some food. So it's a very interesting story, and it was very dirty at the street. So she was not used for this dirt, and she stepped in some dirt, and because he was that impressed that she died. This is the story. Rabbi Yochanan ben Zakkai, קריא לה הרכה בך והענוגה. And Rabbi Yochanan ben Zakkai, he remembers the quote from Dvarim. It's from the curses. So So we need to open Dvarim to see this verse exactly. So I guess it was showing that the people was not ready for this hunger.
On the top. Oh, yeah.
Dvarim 28. So a lot of courses are not only about the person, but also about his wife. So I guess this is the course about the wife of the person. Oh. ואכלת ברית בטנך, בשר בונך ובנותיך, אשר נתן לך השם אלוהיך, ומצוא במצוא אשר הציג לך אוהב לך. So the curses is when Jews will not observe the Torah, so they will eat their sons. האיש הרך בך וענוג מאוד, תרע עינו ואחיו ואשת חיתו ואת ובניו ושירותיו. And so you will eat your sons and your daughters, and you would be envious about the other person that still have them. ניתת לאחת מהם בשר בניו אשר יאכל מבלי אישר לו הכל ומצוא ומצוא. הרכה בך והנוגה אשר נסתחת רגלה הצקה לארץ מתענק ומרוך תרע אינה באיש חיכה ובבנה ובביתה. So I guess this means also that your wife was envy about the other woman that still have children, and about the other husband, and not about you. I guess this is the meaning. And we need to learn it. But there are also another version of this story why Martha bat Baitus died. The other version said, "Gorgeret Rabbi Tzadok achla v'itnisa v'meta." So she found something to eat, and it was Gorgeret, figs of Rabbi Tzadok. And Mara will explain who is Rabbi Tzadok later. So he eat ve'itnisa v'meta. So it was very uncomfortable. I guess some rabbi ate it and throw it away. So she find it and she eat it, and that's why she died, because it was not comfortable for her to eat after someone else. And who was Rabbi Tzadok? He was fasting 40 years because he was expecting that Jerusalem would be destroyed, and he wanted to prevent it with his fast. And he was lacking fat, and when he was eating something, you could see it from the outside. So he couldn't eat normal food, and between the fasts, when he was eating, people would bring him figs, and he was eat the liquid part of it inside, and the other he would throw out. Kihava kanicha nafsha apikta lekol dehava v'kasfa shagitei v'shuka amra rai v'mayim ba'alei. And when this Martha bat Baitus was dying, he was throwing out all her silver and gold, and he said, "Why I needed?" And this is what's said in Yechezkel. Their silver they throw away at the streets, and the gold would be disgusting for them. And now Talmud says story about Abba Sikra. So Sikra, it's from Sikari. Maybe you heard when you say Sikari, Sikari. It's the name of a group of the people that was rebellion against the Romans. It's like a terrorist, actually, terrorist organization, but it was Jewish organization. And Abba Sikra is the head of this organization. So it's like today you could say Osama bin Laden, something this level. Resh Beironi Jerusalem, Bar Achte the Rabban Yochanan ben Zakkai Hava. But Rabban Yochanan ben Zakkai was his relative. Shalach lei tabitzina legabayim. So even that rebellion was not working with rabbis, but the head of the rebels was connected to the head of the rabbis. So that's why they wanted to try to cooperate. Shalach letabitzin lagabai. And Abba Sikra said to Rabban Yochanan ben Zakkai, please come to me, but that no one would see it. Ata amar lei ad ei matavdin tu hachim vekatlitu leila alma bekamfa. And Rabban Yochanan ben Zakkai was angry, and he was asking when the rebels would stop to kill us, because you see that people are dying because of starvation. Amar lei maya avid the iamin al humidi katli. And Abba Sikra was answering, what could I do? If I will say something, they would kill me. So this is very dramatic and common thing that the head, the leader of the nation, they understand what it needs to be done, but it's hard to explain to the people what we need to do, because people have their own understanding, and it's very hard to change the world view of the nation, of the people. So Rabban Yochanan ben Zakkai says to this Abba Sikra, you should think about some trick that I would go outside and speak with Romans. Maybe I could do something, not to save the whole city, but maybe save some people. It reminds me the story of this Schindler, the Schindler List. We will watch it tomorrow, by the way. Amar lei nakit nafshach biktsiri veleitu kule ama veli shailu bach. Oh, so the idea was that Rabban Yochanan ben Zakkai would act like a very sick person, not feeling well, and then everyone would come to you to check about your health. Ve'ait midesaria ve'ignei gabach. So you should put something that smells bad near you, and people would think that you're dead. So it was a very common thing when people starting to be sick, not healthy, they will be dead soon, right? Because they didn't have medicine like we have. But you should let in only your close students and not everyone. So the idea was that the dead body of Rabbi Yochanan ben Zakkai we need to bury outside of Jerusalem, and that's why the rebellion ones should let them out, because to honor the dead ones is a common thing, and even rebellions are good with it, but rebellions would not let the living rabbi outside because they know his intentions, but the dead rabbi is sacred, so they should give it away. So it is very also the characteristic of human approach. People like dead people, and they don't like living people, because dead people you can do anything with them, and living people, they have their own will, their own intentions, and it's hard to deal with it. If you disagree with them, it's very hard to work with it. And this is the approach of these rebellions. And this approach brings destruction, unfortunately. And I was talking to some people here in Germany, so this is what we are lacking here. because the topic of history of Jewish nation is very common, but the topic of living Jewish nation is not that common here in Germany. So this is the work that we need to do. Oh, so when Rabban Yochanan ben Zakkai would go outside, other people would bring him, and there's big difference between the living person and the dead person, because living person is very light, and the dead person is very heavy, right? So when people would give you out of Jerusalem, they could feel that you are light, and they could understand that you are alive and not dead man, right? That's why you should call only your closest students that would help you with your plan. ההגדרה כי נכנס בו רבי אליעזר מצד אחד ורבי יהושע מצד אחד, כמעט רבי חברו למתקראים. So the closest student was Rabbi Eliezer and Rabbi Yoshua, very famous rabbis. And when they went out of Jerusalem, the rebellion ones, they wanted to check if the person is indeed dead, maybe he is alive. And in order to do that, they wanted to try with the sword to kill the person. So if it's a dead person, it would not hurt, but if it's alive, so it would be dead. אמר להו יאמרו רבן דקרו. But the student said it's not good that Romans would see that Rabbi was killed in Jerusalem and not just dead like a sick person. באו למתחפים. But then the rebellion ones wanted to check if he's alive, just to try to wake him up. And then Rabbi Yoshua and Rabbi Eliezer said, it's also not an honor to do it with Rabbi, and then Rabban Yochanan ben Zakkai went outside. So it's a very dramatic story. It reminds of concentration camp, right? That the person could not go outside because, and not because Roman decided it, but because Jews decided. It is the tradition. כמעט לרתם אמר שלמה הלך מלכה, שלמה הלך מלכה. And when Rabban Yochanan ben Zakkai went outside, he said, Shalom Alecha, the king, peace for you, the king. And the reaction was very interesting. Amar le michayav reiktala. I should kill you for two reasons. First reason, because I'm not a king and you call me a king. And the second reason, if I am king, why you didn't said it to me before? Amar le deka amar lav malka ani ibra malka at. The ilav malka lav mismara Yerushalem ba'el. How I know that you are the king indeed? Because Jerusalem could be conquered only by king. דכתיב ולבנון באדיר ייפול. ואין אדיר אלא מלך. דכתיב אדירו מלך בלד, ואין לבנון, אוקיי. ודכאמרת, אם מלכה אנה, אמי לא קאתית לגבי עד הנה, and about your question why I didn't came here before, בריוני דאית בן לא שכינן. We have rebellions and they didn't allow us to go out. אמר לי, אילו חבית של דבש ודרקון כרוך עליה, לא היו שוברים את החבית בשביל דרקון, אשתי. And now this Roman legionnaire says some proverb, rhetorical question. So we need to understand what it is about. For example, if there is a bottle with honey and dragon, and some danger animal is around it, what should you do to save the food? So you need to kill this animal, so how you kill it? You just destroy the whole thing. Destroy the bottle, destroy the food, and destroy the poisonous animal, right? This is the approach of this Roman person, Ishtik. And Rabbi Yochanan didn't know how to comment it, he just was silent about it. קרי עלי רב יוסף וייתן רבי עקיבא וישיב חכמים אחור ודתם יסכל. So it's a common thing when you have some important meeting with the president, for example, you could be nervous and it would be hard for you to speak. So it's normal thing. So Rabbi says about this case, ישיב חכמים אחור ודתם יסכל. That God makes wise man madman, and his mind begins to be stupid mind. Because it's a common thing when someone did something or someone did something else. After this event, there are a lot of people discussing it. He should have done this, he should have done that. But when you're inside the event, it's harder to act when you post this event. So Talmud said, Rabbi Yochanan should said to this Roman person, you should take some instrument to take away this drakon, this poisonous animal, and kill this animal. So you still left with the bottle full of honey, right? And you don't need to destroy the whole thing. So now I understand this problem. So it is about, so dvash is rabbis, and the honey is the rabbis, and the bottle is Jerusalem, and drakon, it's maybe the rebel ones. So basically, the rabbi is saying, I could not came to you before because the rebel ones was interfering and doesn't allow me to go out. So the suggestion of the Roman person, so in order to destroy the rebels, I just will destroy everything. So Rabbi Yochanan ben Zakkai didn't know what to answer. But the later rabbis said that he could have answered that you could just get out these rebels and destroy them, and you still left with the city and the rabbis, right? Adehachi ata pristika ale meromi amar leikum de mitle kesa v'amirano hashi deromi lo itiva berechi. So while they were speaking, Asposianus was the name, right?
Yes.
In Russian we say Vespasian. Asposianus. So it was a messenger that came from Rome and said that the Caesar is dead and you will be the new Caesar. So you need to go back to important work in the office and not to with the war here. Avasayim had masana baile misayama la'achrina lo ayel. It's interesting how the story builds up, and every switch of the story comes with a little detail, additional little detail. For example, now we could just end the story that he went out to Roman and that's it. But here comes the episode, for some reason, how he was wearing his shoes. So I guess he was without his shoes, so he put one shoe, and he wanted to put on the second shoe, and he couldn't put on his second shoe. Amar mai hai, and he didn't understand why he could not put on his second shoe. Amar le lo titztaer, shmua tova atilar dechtiv shmua tova dedeshen atzim. And Rabbi Yochanan explains, you should not be worried about it, because you hear some good news, that's why your bone becomes more bigger. It's a quote from Mishlei. Elamai takanti, but still this person, Roman, needs to put on his shoe. So what he can do, later inish the law mit דעת תחמימי ולכלך כמה, לכתיב ורוח נחת יבש גרם, אבל הכיוון. So what is the advice to do in this situation? You need to bring someone that you don't like to pass near you, and this is when your bone would return to the initial size, like it says also in Mishlei, in another chapter, ורוח נחת יבש גרם. So if the person is upset, so his bones the yabesh becomes dry. Avad raichi ayel, and he did like it, and he actually could wear here his other shoe. I guess this story is just making fun of about his emperor, that he has so many power, but still he could not wear his shoes without the help of the rabbi. Amar lei, so it's just a joke. Meizam azilna ve'ine shachrina meshadarna. So before leaving, this Aspasianus said to the rabbi, I'm going away and I will send someone other person. Ela bai minai midi de'eten lecha. So you could ask me something that I would give to you before I leave. So it is a very crucial moment here. Amar lei ten li yavne ve'chachamecha. So it's a classical plot, 3 requests. Как есть золотая рыбка, загадать 3 желания. In Russian culture, we have famous fairy tale that one person finds a golden fish and he could ask 3 things from this golden fish. So here is also 3 asks. So Rabbi Rabban Yochanan asks first thing, Yavne v'chachamem, so the Romans would not destroy the city Yavne with his rabbis. So they will destroy Jerusalem and the rabbis within Jerusalem. It's we could not do anything about it, but Yavne and his wise men should stay alive. The Shalish and the Rabban Gamliel, and the family of Rabban Gamliel is the head of Sanhedrin. And the last thing, we need the doctor for Rabbi Tzadok that was fasting 40 years, that the doctor would take care of his stomach. Kari alei Rav Yosef. So again, this Rav Yosef was not happy about the story, and some say that it was Rabbi Akiva, Meshir Chachamim Achor v'datam Yisakel, that Hashem make the mind of Chachamim mad mind, and their knowledge not wise. So Rabban Yochanan was needed to ask that you should leave the Jerusalem and not to destroy it. It's obvious thing, right? But why Rabban Yochanan ben Zakkai was not asking this? Because if you ask too much, so you would be denied, and then it would not help at all, right? So that's why in politics, in diplomacy, you should ask something small, and you would receive this small thing. So this was the logic of Rabban Yochanan ben Zakkai. Avstad de Messiah le Rabbi Tzadok ma'ihi. And now, I guess we will skip it. You know this science. If someone was starving for a long time, so he should not eat meat. He needs to drink, and then you add some bread into water. So some long. So we'll skip the story. Azal Shad Relatitus Rasha. And then this Aspasianus went to Rome, and he became important politician. And for the war, they sent Titus. In Russian, we say Tit. ואמר, אי אלוהים מצאו חסיו בו. זה טיטוס רשע שחרב וגידף כלפי מעלה. So now Talmud says not beautiful things about Titus. that he was cursing the god. Ma'asa. So he did several things within the temple. So we can see the parochet that is not like normal. So initially in the temple it was parochet between the Kodesh and Kodesh HaKodashim. So he took his sword and destroyed this parochet. V'na'asa nes, but it was a miracle that it was blood going out from this parochet. And that's why this Titus thought that he killed the god. Ata Abba Hanan Omer, Ni chamocha chasin ya. So I guess the average person would be very angry about this. Why God did not revenge with this Titus? And this is why it comes next, the Rasha. Abba Hanan Omer, Mi chamocha chasin ya. Who is as strong as you, Hashem, asks King David in Tehillim. So the question is, what is the strength of God? Explains Abba Hanan, Mi chamocha chasin v'kashe she'ata shomea nimutzo v'gidufo shel oto rasha v'shotek. And it's the same as we said in Perkei Avot. Ezecho Gibor, who is the strong, hakovesh et yitzro, the person that could overcome his instincts. So this is the same idea here. God hears Titus cursing him, but still God doesn't reply. So it shows the strength of God, because weak person feels that he needs to respond, right? But if you're strong, you just don't care about it, right? So this is the strength of God, that he doesn't need to reply. So the same idea connected to the other verse. Elim, ilumim. So it's like God could not say anything. So he is the one that doesn't speak. So, Titus. So this is the famous place in Paris, Titus Ark. No? This. I bring this kimo. Very good. I'll show you. Here.
Oh, okay. Well, this one. I like it. That's at all.
Try something else. Yes. So it's here. Oh, this on the bottom, on the top.
I thought it was wrong.
It's called the Ark of Titus. You could find it on the internet, I guess.
Here.
Valdere. I guess it's this. I guess it's the thing. Okay, so this is the story behind it. Natalia the parochet. So this Titus take this parochet, the asol kimin gargufni, and he was using it like a box to store everything. So he took the sacred things from the temple, golden and silver spoons, cups, and everything. and he went with his sheep to go back to his city and to show that he was victorious, right? שנאמר ובכן, So he went to the Rome, עמד עליו נחשול שבים לטובעו. But it was very bad weather when he was traveling with his sea, and the ship was about to sink. אמר כמדומה אני שאלוהים של אלו אין גבורתו אלא במים. Oh wow, this is very beautiful story here. So he was saying, so normal man would be scared, right? But he was so proud that he was not scared, but he was making fun of God, and he said, the God of Jews, he is strong only in the water. For example, when Jews was escaping Egypt, the Egyptians was killed with the sea, right? But Avu, and also now God wants to kill me with water. But if he's really strong, let's see if he is strong outside of the water. And if he could fight me on the earth, on the ground. יצתה בת קול ואמרה לו, and then it was the voice from the sky that said, רשע בן בנו של עשיו רשע, בריאה קלה יש לי בעולמי ויתוש שמה. So how God would make a war with this person? Of course not God himself, because it's not honor for God to fight this wicked man, but he will take Yatush. In modern Hebrew, Yatush is mosquito. I'm not sure if it is mosquito in Morocco. And what is this animal does? Because he could eat, but he could not get out after it what he already ate. How many days lives the mosquito? Because sometimes I've seen them when they're full of blood, so they are just stuck at some place and resting. Maybe they died after it.
About 1 week. The male ones. The female ones about 6 weeks.
Female have great advantage.
Yeah.
Okay, it doesn't matter here. So please go outside the sea and do war with mosquito. And then this mosquito, he went inside his nose and was eating his brain from the inside 7 years. But it's not the end of the story. One day he was going near the Schmidt. I forget in English. Shama kol avzavta ishti. And it was very loud voice when Schmidt are working. And this is when this mosquito calmed down. Amar itakanta. And now Titus said, it turned out that I have a treatment for my disease. So every day, Schmidt was... Blacksmith was coming and was making his work in front of him. But it was interesting detail. How many was his paying to the smith, to the blacksmith? And it depends if it's Jewish or not. For non-Jewish, he was paying 4 coins. But for Jewish, he said, it's enough for you that you see my disaster. So he was not paying for Jewish blessing. At Latin Yomin Avid Hachi Mikan Milach Kivan the Dash. Oh, that's interesting story. We could make movie from it. So 30 days it was helping, but after it, this mosquito was used to the noise, so he started again to eat his brain. Таня, אמר רבי פנחס בן ערובה, אני ראיתי בין גדולי רומי, וכשמת מצאו את מוחו, מצאו בו כציפור דור משקל 2 סלעים. So now Bara talks about his brain, which size it was, and how many this mosquito ate from his brain. So when this Titus was dead, they opened his brain and found Ketzipor Dror. Tzipor is the bird, so it was the hole in his brain with the size of a bird. So of course someone would say that it was more. אמר רבי, נקטין הוא פיו של נחושת וציפורניו של ברזל. This bird was not regular bird, but from iron. כי הווה קמאית אמר לו, לקלויה לרהו גברא וליבדהו לקיטמי, I don't understand. אשר ימי דלא לשכח אלוהה יהודה וליקום מדינה. So this is the thing about Agada, that sometimes in Talmud we have halacha and Agada, two parts. Halacha is discussing how you need to perform this law or that mitzvah, details of the law. And Agada part talks about some ideas behind the law. So as the stories of Tanakh, we have written Torah, but still written Torah, it works with this style that it doesn't tell you everything. It leaves some places where you need to think yourself what exactly was the story and how exactly was the relationship between the persons. And this is one of the work of Agada, that it tells you the story behind the scenes, we could say. And this is what Rashi does in Chumash. He adds a lot of stories, a lot. And sometimes the stories in Agada, it's like a fairy tales. It could be something weird that it's hard to understand. So it's very specific genre that we have. And sometimes it's hard to understand.
This is from one chapter, 55 feet.
It is the name of the page.
It's still. This is the same page.
Let's see. 56 B.
The following up pages also.
56 B we're now. And we started on
55 feet.
Huh?
Okay, there were several pictures. Okay.
So this story is several pages. It's a very long story. I don't know if we will learn everything today. Okay. So, כי הווה קמאית אמר לו, לקלו אלוהו גברא וליבדהו לקיטמי, אשר ימי דלא לשכח אלוהה יהודה ולוק מבדינה. Interesting story. כי הווה קמאית, when this person was dead, Tit, when he was about to die, he said, please burn my body and my ashes, put it on the 7 sins, because that the God of Jews would not find me and not judge me. Unkilos ben Klonikos bar after the Titus Hava by Leigi Igiure. The next story is about some relative of Tit, the son of the sister of Tit. He was Onkelos, the son of Klonikos, and he wanted to convert. Azal aski letitus binegida. This is same story. And then, yes?
This is sentence. The theme to all them what you are reading, because my brain is trying to connect the story with the arrow and the honeypot and all them
Yes,
together.
it works like associations. So it's like episodes, right? Every episode tells different story. So it's like watching the series, right?
But there's no theme what they all connect together.
It's connected to this destruction of the temple. Because Titus was one that destroyed the temple, so he is dead now. And now we're talking about the relative of him, and he is doing magic and talking to the spirit of the Titus. Now,
Okay.
and overall, Talmud is not a structured book. It works very intuitive association.
Okay,
Now we have
because
this
my
topic.
brain is trying to structure it, but I'm failing.
Yes, because it was the work of Rambam that did Mishneh Torah to structure the law. But when we have Agadah, it's just it's like the lays. It have lays. First lay, second lay, third, fourth. It's and each lay have new idea. So this it works like it.
Okay.
So it's like a commentary. For example, we have initial text, and then after 100 years, someone adds commentary to this, and after another 100 years, someone else adds another story somehow connected to the initial story. So we have this it's like an onion. An onion have a lot of layers. Onion.
Onion, like onion, yeah.
So you have something within, but also a lot of additional things. You didn't learn Talmud before? Oh. Yeah. But when it's coming to discussing the law, it's more structured.
But shouldn't we then know when the page is beginning to know what is the first layer? Because if we're just listening here, it's like feeling.
Yes. So
from
the story was about.
To one.
Yes, we could do the summary. The story is about the destruction of the temple. So we said about Rabbi Yochanan ben Zakkai that wanted to go outside, and he could do it only pretending dead, because the rebel once was interrupting and didn't let people to go out. And then he get out and spoke to the Kezer, to Legionnaire, and asked him several things to help him to save this sage, to save this rabbi. And the first thing that said Rabbi Yochanan ben Zakkai, Shalom Aleichem Melech, that you are the king. And this indeed was the story that came messenger and said, you are now the king, you should go to the Rome. And that's why the Romans sent another person to destroy Jerusalem. And it was Tit. And Rabbi Yochanan was not talking to the Tit. So now we're talking about the Tit and the story behind it. So I guess it was just living story, how people was talking, and when people tell you the story, so he jumps from one aspect to the other. It's not structured. So it's just written how people spoke. I guess this is the meaning. So now it's we will end soon. We could see it soon, right? When it's Chatzot.
21 minutes.
So soon we could see. Onkelos ben Chronicles, after the Titus Hava by Legiore. So Onkelos, in classic book of Chumash, you have also the translation of Chumash to Aramaic language, and it's called Targum Onkelos. So Onkelos was the one that translated Torah to Aramaic language. And also, when we have the reading of Torah in synagogues, today we're reading it in Hebrew without translation for some reason that we need to understand. But initially, in the law, it's written that we need to read it and translate it to Aramaic language, because the idea of this project to read Torah in the synagogue, it's an educational project of our sages, and we want to teach people Torah. And regular people doesn't understand the old Hebrew language, what is written exactly. So that's why you need to translate it to Aramaic, and Aramaic was the language that people was spoken there. Then, so this is the reason to translate Torah to Aramaic. Amar Leiman Hashibahu Alma. So Onkelos was hesitating if he needs to convert, and this is why he wanted to connect to his neighbor, with the world to come, and to ask his spirit in the spiritual world who is the important person. Amar Le Israel. So Titus says the important person in the spiritual world is Jewish. Mahu leidbuki bihu. So then Onkelos asks, is it worth to become the part of them, to be connected with them? Amar le milaihu nefishen velo matzid le yuminhu. Zir igre behu behai alma lavit reisha. Oh, that's interesting advice here. דכתיב היו צריך לראש והיה שלוש. כל המצר לישראל נעשה ראש. So Titus said that they have a lot of words, a lot of laws, I guess this is the meaning, and you could not perform every law. And that's why you should make war with them in this world, material world, and therefore you could be famous, important person. Everyone that makes problems to Jewish, Nasarosh becomes the important and famous person, like Hitler, for example. Amar lei dinei behahu gavra b'mai. Amar lei b'mai depasik anavshi kol yoma. Oh, and then Onkelos was asking, what is the onesh? Onesh, наказание. Punishment. Oh, straf. What is the punishment for Titus in the spiritual world? Amar lei b'mai depasik anavshi. In the same thing that he decided to do to himself. Kol yom mechan shelei kitnei. Every day, his ashes, mekanshi, they gather it together and burn him again, and threw away his ashes again. This is interesting. So what the person wants for himself, he would receive himself. Azar aski Bilam. Let's skip here a little bit. Oh, so we're coming back to initial story about Bar Kamsa. Tanya Amar Rabbi Elazar, בואו ראה כמה גדולה כוחה של בושה. Rabbi Elazar saying you should think about it. How big is the punishment of shame if we make shame for someone? We see that Hashem, God helps for Bar Kamsa and destroyed his temple, which is not obvious thing, right? Because, for example, if the rabbis would make this offering, so it would be not they will be not. So the Kezer would think that Jewish was not rebel and he was not destroying the Jerusalem, right? But God organized it like it, that the temple would be destroyed just in order that Bar Kamsa would be revenged. I don't know what is the meaning exactly. Kocha shel busha. So Bar Kamsa wanted to make revenge, and Hashem helped him to make his revenge. This is the idea, right? Incredible. התרנגול והתרנגול בחרו תרומה. What time is חצות? Another 7 minutes. So now it's the other story about Tur Malka. Not Jerusalem that was destroyed, because Judea was the province of Rome, and there were several cities, not only Jerusalem. And Tur Malka was destroyed because of the chicken and roaster. So it was the custom in this place, when it was the bride and the groom, the wedding, they put in front of them the roaster and the chicken and saying, you should multiply like these chickens. I guess the meaning behind it is the eggs. I guess every day there is a new egg, so it's the symbol of blessing a lot of children. יום אחד אבא קפא לבונדר לרמאי שקלינהו מנהל. One day, Roman soldiers was walking in the city, and of course they took the chicken and the roaster for themselves because they wanted to eat, I guess. Nafu alayhu mahunhu. So this custom was sacred for Jews, and that's why they attacked the Roman soldiers. And that's why Caesar hears that Jews rebelled against him, and that's why the Caesar started war against the Jewish nation. And now it's the story about Bar Droma. We will skip this story. We will read the end of the story. So it was some Jewish strong man. His name was Bar Droma. And he was killed in some accident. And Caesar said, since he was killed, I would leave him alone because it's very sad event for the Jewish. So they could not be rebelled if their leader are dead. So I will leave them. But the most interesting part of this story, what Jewish did after this happy event, that Romans decided to not make war and not kill Tur Malka. They was very happy, and they did big event, and they eat and drink and make a lot of fire. And how big was the fire? If you will be in the night and you want to see the writing on your ring, you could see it in the length of 1 mile. So it was very big celebration. And the Caesar said, I guess the Jews are laughing at me. That's why he came back and attacked them. Rabbi Yossi said it was 100,000 warriors with swords came to Tur Malka, and they killed the people there 3 days and 3 nights. And the interesting part, that on the other side of this time, people was still celebrating, and they didn't know that on the other side of town it was war. Very actual message.
So, sorry, again, why were they celebrating?
Because initially it was decreed that the Romans would come here and make war because Jews was rebellion. That's what they thought. But because the hero of Jewish nation, Bar Droma, was killed, for some event, we didn't skip this part. That's why Jews was very happy and made a celebration about it. And that's why Kaiser thought that Jews was laughing at me, that I am weak, that I could not conquer them, and that's why he gone them and killed everyone there. So this is very actual these days because when people live in Israel, for example, so how they treat the outer world, the non-Jewish world, and sometimes we could see this attitude that we are better than them because we have our land and it makes Jewish very proud, and they think that they are above all the others, and this point of view is very dangerous because people are losing the reality, like in this story, that you should not be make too big celebration when you are in the province of Judea under the Roman authority, right? Because they forget that they are still in the galut, in the exile, and they thought that since they live in the land of Israel, they are not in galut, and Mashiach came already, so they could be very loud about it. And this is very dangerous direction to go. If we feel proud of ourselves, we could easily make a mistake, and this mistake would lead to very bad here in Germany. There are pro-Palestinian activities, and I see that a lot of Jewish people doesn't feel comfortable for some reason, which is hard to understand because they feel like their proud is hurt because they consider these pro-Palestinian activities anti-Semitic, which is questionable, and for this reason, Jews want to say that this pro-Palestinian activity should not be allowed and should be forbidden. And this intention is not good intention because here in Germany works multicultural system and not monocultural system that we used in Israel. And multicultural is about democracy, so every culture could speak about themselves. And if, for example, the community of Arabic community, Islam community supports Palestine, they have a right to do it in Germany, at least, and it's not a good thing to fight with this, right? Because it shows like we are hostile towards this nation, which is not a good way to show, right? So I guess this is the message that we could learn from it, that we need to consider the other nations and as well, and be very careful about it, and not be too proud of ourselves, and not to lose contact with reality. Okay, so when we could daven, what time?
No. Like at 2 o'clock.
Yeah, 57.
Yeah, 57. I just want to advise inform you. Set of checks.
Yeah, just a little.
Slowly Shabbos.
Nicht Shabbos gerecht. So I guess we will learn until Mincha, and then we will decide what's the next.
Because I would like to take a nap.
You want to sleep already?
No, already, but like
Soon.
after Mincha will be nice.
Okay. V'la Hashem lo chamar et kol neot Yaakov. So in Megillat Eicha we read
One question.
yes.
Didn't they say that there was some Mincha at 8:30?
Yes, they do it in the evening.
Okay.
So I'm not sure about it.
But about like tefillin,
So we could put tefillin at 2 o'clock, right? V'la Hashem lo chamar et kol neot Yaakov. In Megillat Eicha we said Hashem destroyed and did not show mercy for all the beautifulness of Yaakov. And what is the beauty of Yaakov? Ki ata Rabin amar Rabbi Yochanan. Rabbi Yochanan said it means Shishim ribo ayarot shayu le'einai hamelech behar hamelech. So it was one place called Har HaMelech, the mountain of the king, where was living the king Yanai, and he had there a lot of cities, and the number is 600,000 cities. And they was destroyed, right? נאמר רבי יהודה אמר רב, אייסי 60 רבוע עיירות כל המלך בהר המלך וכל אחת האחת יהיה כזה. אוקיי. רב מניומי בר חילקיהו ורב חילקיהו בר טובי ורבינה בר חייא רב יצבי גבי הדד אמר איקא דשמיע למילתא מכפר סחר שמצרים לימה. A lot of stories here. אמר לי אביי לרב יוסף, מאחר דהבו צדיקים כולי היי כפר סחניה, מאי תמה יאנוש. So it was some city that was destroyed, and there was righteous men there, everyone. And the question is, if everyone was righteous men, why the city was destroyed? אמר לי משום דלא יבול על ירושלים, דכתיב שמחו את ירושלים יגבו בה כל אוהביה, ששרתה משוש כל המתאבלים עליה. Because they didn't mourn about Jerusalem and the destruction, like it said in Yeshayahu, Simchu et Yerushalayim. So you should, everyone that is mourning about Jerusalem will be happy. So this is the prophecy. So it means that everyone should be mourning about Jerusalem. Oh, interesting. Oh, ביתר. השקה דריספק חרבו ביתר. דהר גונהיגי כהר ומתיד דנוקה שטלי ארזן. Another custom, similar like we've seen with the chicken, there. Here in Beitar, it was a custom that when the baby that was born was a boy, they were planting erez. Erez means kedar. And when it was a girl, shatlei tornita. It was the other plant, other tree. How they translate it? Oh, so we on 57 already. Oh, here. Kedar, and the second Cypress. You familiar with it? Cypress tree. Oh. Okay, any other? In Russian, they translated akatsiya.
Cedar.
Kedar is the first, and the second is tornita. And tornita, they translated in English cypress. So when the children was getting married, they would chop the trees to make chuppah. Very beautiful. יום אחד הרב כחלפה ברתי דקיסר one day the daughter of Caesar was crossing by. התברשקה דריספק. So her car was broken, and that's why they chop some tree to repair the car. So the same story, like in previous story. So the Jews had attacked these people. So they came to Caesar and said that the Jews are rebellion, Ata alive, and that's why Romans came to destroy Beitar, the city of Beitar. So this is the same idea about monocultural culture and multicultural. So Jews saw a threat in this Roman culture, and it was not correct way to see it, right? Because it's not a threat, it's just another culture that lives nearby. So if they don't understand your culture, so you need to explain and not be aggressive about it, right? גדה בחייאף כל קרן ישראל, רמי המזעי רמה מרבי רבי יוחנן, אלו 80,000 קרנים לחמה שנצאו לקרב ביתר בשעה של הדורון. So Rabbi Yochanan said it was 80,000. How many is it? 80,000 קרני מלחמה. Soldiers that came to ביתר at the time, והרגו בה אנשים נשים וטף, and they killed אנשים, נשים וטף. Men, women, children, עד שלא דמן ונפל לים הגדול. And there was so many blood that the river of blood came to the big sea, which means Mediterranean Sea. שמא תאמר קרובה הייתה, רחוקה הייתה מאוד. You could have said that it's close, but it was 1 mile away. So it's around 1 kilometer. תניא, רבי אליעזר הגדול אומר, שני נחלים יש בבקעת ידיים, אחד מושך אליו ואחד מושך אליו, ושאר חמים שני חלקים מים ואחד דם. So Rabbi Eliezer Gadol talks about some river in the place Yadayim. So the river that goes to the sea, it was 2 parts blood and 1 part, 2 parts water and 1 part blood. It means 1/3 blood. ואני תתנה 7 שנים בצחו אומות העולם וקרבהם מדרון שנשחק בלא זבל. Another saying that it was so many blood, Jewish blood split there, that the non-Jewish that was working in the vineyards, they didn't need to put удобрения. So you don't need to add something that it would harvest because there was so many blood. So the harvest was very good in the vineyards. אמר רבי חייא בר אבין אמר רבי יהושע בן קרחה סח לי זקן אחד מאנשי ירושלים וכזו הרג נבוזראדן רב טבחים 211 ריבוע. בירושלים רב 94 ריבוע על אבן אחת, על שלח דמן ונגע בדמו של זכריה לקיים נשמה ודמים בדמים נגעו. This is very important because we talk about the destruction of the temple, and we tend to forget about the destruction of the people. And the destruction of the people was very big, that we could compare it to Shoah, to the Holocaust. And Rabbi Yeshua ben Koch has said, one old man from Jerusalem told me that in some valley, Nebuzaradan, the head of the guard, killed 2 million Jews, and at Jerusalem he killed 940,000 people on one stone, and the blood came to the blood of Zechariah. I don't remember where was the Zechariah blood. So it was realized that of the realization of the prophecy in Hosea, blood one, damim b'damim nagau. So blood touched the other blood. Interesting. אשכחי לדמי את הזכר ידעו כמירתח וסליק אמר לו ומה יהיו? So Nebuzaradan, that was destroying Jerusalem, interesting. So this is the destruction of the first temple, not the second. Okay. So the second temple destroyed Tit, and the first temple destroyed Nebuzaradan, and Nebuzaradan was the head of the army of Nebuchadnezzar. So the king Nebuchadnezzar was the one that destroyed the first temple, and Nebuzaradan was the main soldier in his army. So Nebuzaradan found the blood of Zechariah that was boiling, and he was impressed and asked, "What is it?" And people said that it was the blood of the offering animals that was split here. And Nebuzaradan didn't believe. So he made an offering here and put the blood nearby, and it didn't look the same. So Nebuzaradan said, "If you tell me the truth, it would be better for you. And if not, I would kill you." Said, and the Kohanim responded, "We had one prophet that was talking to us, and he was saying that we was not acting good, and that's why we went to rebellion and killed him. So his blood is not calm for a lot of years." And this is why Nebuzaradan said, "I would make his blood calm," which means I would revenge for him. So this Nebuzaradan took the rabbis from the big Sanhedrin and from small Sanhedrin and killed them in the same place where Jews killed Zechariah, but still the blood was not calmed down. And then he took young men, young women, and killed them, but still the blood was not calmed down. Then he took Jewish kids from the Jewish school and killed them, but still the blood would not calm down. And then there was Radan said, "Zechariah, Zechariah, you will calm down only after I will kill them on." And when he said that, the blood calmed down. And then Nebuzaradan started to feel guilt about him and repentance. And he said, "If for one person God punishes that much, so me, that I killed so many people, how big would be my punishment?" So he was afraid. And then he left his army and he converted. Interesting. Tana, Naaman גר תושב היה, נבוזראדן גר צדק היה, מבני בניו של המן למדו תורה מבני ברק. there is two types of ger, ger toshav and ger tzedek. You familiar with these terms? So usually when we say ger, it means ger tzedek. So it means non-Jewish that converts to Judaism. So he started to observe the law of Israel. So he becoming the part of Jewish community. But ger toshav is something different. Ger toshav means when the non-Jewish lives in the land of Israel and he observes the 7 law of Bnei Noach. Are you familiar with the 7 law of Bnei Noach? Which are they?
Like, don't do anything with your relatives. Don't.
Adultery.
Incest.
Adultery.
And then don't kill.
Mm-hmm.
And then don't drink blood or not living animals.
Don't drink the living animal. Don't eat living animal. Yes. So you need to kill the animal before you eat him, and you are not allowed to eat the animal while he is still alive.
Don't steal.
Yes. About the judge, to organize the judgment system, right?
Yeah.
So this is how many we have?
5.
Oh wow.
Then don't commit adultery. If you don't pray to another god, if you.
Oh. And don't curse God, maybe? I think don't curse God is the.
Yeah, or something like that.
It's in Halacha, Mishneh Torah. Foreign worship, 10:6.
There's one to not worship another deity and not to do blasphemy.
And to curse God, yes. Okay,
Not
so
to kill.
so we are talking about. So there is some famous persons that are not Jewish. So we are saying that their sons converted or they're converted, but we need to know who they are in order to feel the story. Naaman was ger toshav. Naaman was the head of the army of Aram in the time of Elisha. I guess he was making war against Jewish. And there was a Radan that we speak recently that was destroyed first temple. He was ger tzedek. And בניו של המן למדו תורה בבני ברק. The sons of Haman that wanted to destroy the Jewish nation, they learned Torah in Bnei Brak, מבני בניו של סיסרא לימדו תינוקות בירושלים. And the sons of Sisra, the sons of Sisra, Sisra was making war against Israel. They was teaching young Jewish people in Jerusalem. מבני בניו של סנחריב לימדו תורה ברבים. Sancheriv was some wicked king, and his son, the son of his sons, was teaching Torah publicly. Man inun, and who it was, Shmaya ve'avtalion. ראינו דכתיב ונתתי אדמה על שיח סלע לבלתי אחר. Shmaya ve'avtalion is famous rabbis in Mishnah. Oh, that's interesting. Hakol kol Yaakov v'hayadayim idei Esav. This is the quote from the famous story when Yaakov wanted to receive the blessing of Esav from his father Yitzchak. It was the idea of his mother Rivka, and Yitzchak was hesitating if it's actually Esav or maybe it's Yaakov. So Yitzchak said this phrase, "Hakol kol Yaakov." The sound of his voice is the voice of Yaakov. The hayadayim, but the hands. He wears some special thing that his hands would be with a lot of hair, like Esav. But the hands are the hands of Esav. So it's very famous saying by Yitzchak, and Talmud makes דרשה on this quote. הכל זה על איראניוס כריסאו שהרג באלכסנדריה של מצרים 60 רבו על 60 רבו, כפליים כיוצאים מצרים. כל יעקב זו אספסיאנוס קיסר שעל בכר בעיקר 400 רבו והמבלה 4,000. Oh, this is interesting. So it's about two cities. The first city is Alexandria, but there was several Alexandria cities. We're talking about Alexandria in Egypt, and the second city is Beitar. Hakol, the voice is about Adrianus that killed in Alexandria in Egypt. How many is it? 600,000 al. We need to multiply. Twice as, so it's 1,200,000. And it was a big Jewish community in Alexandria. If you heard about Philon Alexandriski, that's the такого человека. It was famous philosopher. It's very interesting. And his works, some say that his works inspired the beginning of Christianity, the concept of logos, the word. Because when we read the creation of the world, it's written in the form of speech, that God says something and something happened. So we could see that there is a God and there is his words, which are also sacred. So this is the idea of, if you have another, and also I guess it was a big Gniza there, if I'm not mistaken. Kol Yaakov, and what is Kol Yaakov? This is the voice when Aspasianus, Vespasian, killed in Beitar 400 ריבו. גם ירידה 4,000 ריבו. So it's 4 million or 40 million. So basically this midrash, I guess it's the criticism for Alexandria in Mitzrayim, because it's only voice, but it's not voice of Yaakov, because I guess people in Alexandria was very Hellenized and they was affected a lot by the culture of Greek and Roman culture, and people in Beitar was closer to original tradition. But still in Beitar it was more. They explain it in Russian here. They talking here about what's the connection between Esav and Rome, because it's not that connected. Esav was around 2,000 years before Rome. So several commentaries, they work to explain how it's connected. But I guess it's just the association. Like we spoke today about Ashkenaz and Sfarad, it's just if you know the Tanakh very well, so you live with those names, and if you see something, so you say, oh, this is a dome. It's just the association, it doesn't have to be connected for real connection. דבר אחר, הכל כל יעקב, אין לך תפילה שמועלת שאין בה מזרעו של יעקב, והעדה מידי עשיו, אין לך מלחמה שנצחת שאין בה מזרעו של עשיו. Interesting. So if you see the prayer that helps, it is the sons of Jacob. And if you see the war, successful war, it is the sons of Esau. So this midrash is also very important. Basically, Rabbis wants to say that we should not make war against Romans because it's a Roman thing, and we should pray. But it was not helpful, and unfortunately, Jewish was rebelled against Romans, so Romans killed a lot of people, and Jewish could not live in the land of Israel after the destruction of the temple for around 1800 years. לכן דאמר רבי אלעזר, בשוט לשון תחווה, בחרחורי לשון תחווה. This is what's said in the book of Job, that you should not provoke other people. You should avoid these provocations. אמר רבי יהודה, אמר רב, מה דכתיב על נרות בבל, שם ישבנו גם בכינו בזכרנו את ציון, מלמד שיהו הקדוש ברוך הוא לדוד, חורבן בית ראשון וקרא בית שני, That's interesting. This is very interesting. It was a King David, right? So the King David was living before the first temple. And why the King David didn't build the temple, you know?
Pardon?
Why King David didn't build the temple?
Because he was a warrior.
Yes, genau.
And Shlomo, he just reigned in peace.
Oh.
And Ben Hamikdash is also permitted to build it up with metal, because it's like a sword.
And the law about the building the temple.
Yeah, because there's nothing to associate the temple with war.
With the war. Okay. But so the second thing about the King David is the Tehillim, right? So the book is Tehillim. Who wrote the book of Tehillim?
Mostly King David.
Oh. Okay. But
Yeah,
now Gemara quotes one psalm, and it said on the rivers of Babel, we was sitting and was crying, remembering Zion. You know, so it makes sense that it was written after the destruction of the temple, right?
Yeah.
But how it can be connected to the King David that was before the temple? So this is the question of Gemara, and Gemara answers. Interesting answer. Melamed, it teaches us that Hashem showed to David the destruction of the first temple and the destruction of the second temple.
But it's not in the speech of Shlomo HaMelech when he was like the temple that was built, and then he made the first speech. And then in the first speech he's saying one day you won't pray there because you won't go in exile, and then you can't bring the boat, and then they will come from your lips.
There is midrash about.
I think this is in Tanakh.
There is a midrash about. Yes, there is a prayer that Shlomo did in the start of the temple. It is in Tanakh. You know.
There is he speaking already of the destruction of the temple, and that
Yes.
the Jewish people were going next. So here
I
the
don't
same.
remember it. I don't remember. Oh, so Talmud says that Hashem showed for the David, basically it's like a prophecy, right? Showed to David the destruction of the first temple and destruction of the second temple. I guess we could explain it logically, that maybe the King David was upset that he is not building the temple, so Hashem wanted to count him down, that the temple would be destroyed, so you should not be that upset. And also, Talmud found another. So this is the same. So in the same psalm, they found about the two temples, because Bavel, it's about the first temple and exile of Bavel, and there is also the verse Zchor Hashem livnei Edom et yom Yerushalayim haomrim aru aru ad hayesod ba. That Hashem should remember for the sons of Edom the day of Jerusalem when they said, destroy it till the end. So Bnei Edom is about the destruction of the second temple. And there is a sad story, אמר רב יהודה אמר שמואל ותמר רב ביעמי ואמר אליו ומתנית תנא מעשה ב400 ילדים וילדות שנשבו לקלון. So it was 400 Jewish teenagers, we could translate, that was нишбу, not enslaved, попали в плен. Кстати, плен я забыл. Пленены. Можно вот здесь. Хорошо, что здесь есть перевод на английский. Это удобно, когда я забыл какое-то слово. So we are on 57b already. Yes. Captivity. So 400 Jewish people was taken for captivity. And what was the reason for taking them? Talmud said kalon. Kalon means shame. And what is the meaning of shame? Should be Rashi here. Commentary. Rashi. Kalon. So they explain it here. Bardel. So prostitutes, I guess. ירגישו בעצמם למה הם מנגשים. So those young people felt what is the intention for them, and they said, אם אנו טובים בים, אנו באים לחיי עולם הבא. If we will drown in the sea, should we go to the next world? דרש להם הגדול שבהם. אמר השם בשן השיב השם מצוות ים. And the big one from them said, make drasha. I would bring you from the bottom of the sea. So the answer was yes. And when the girls heard it, they go and fell to the sea. And then the boys was thinking, מה הלאה שדרכם לכך כך, אנו שנדרכם לכך על אחת כמה וכמה, אבל הם קפצו לתוך הים. להם כדי אומר, כי לך הרגת כל יום נחשב מקצבך תבחן. So the boys basically went after the girls and killed themselves. Because the girls is more normal way, and the boys is in some perverted way. This is why it's called kal vachomer. Are you familiar with the term kal vachomer? Kal vachomer, тем более. How they translate it? The word in the idioma kal vachomer.
So, this technique is right. Zum Beispiel Wasser ist eine Flüssigkeit. Deswegen ist so oder so Wein auch eine Flüssigkeit. Und du redest über Wein. Das ist ein Bezug, wenn das eine so, dann ist das andere selbstverständlich auch dasselbe sein. Okay? Das ist einfach nur die Technik der Auslegung.
Here.
Okay. Gibt es nicht in 13 Auslegungen, dass das so ist?
A fortiori. I guess it's in Latin. A fortiori. Argumentum a fortiori. Okay, this is difficult to explain. Used to express a conclusion for which there is stronger evidence than for a previously accepted one. Denoting or based on a conclusion for which there is stronger evidence than for a previously accepted one. Okay, we should learn this term next time. So I guess we now at the time of Mincha Gdola. So what we need to plan ahead? What is going to be our plan? We learned most of the book.
Is there any take-home message?
Huh?
Is there any take-home message?
Take home?
Yeah.
Like anything to learn from it, which you can take, which is like the message, the learning.
Because this was the difficulty. You told a lot of stories.
But I think that
They had a deep meaning or something to thinking about. And
Yes.
when we jumped into the next story, and so what you wanted that
Grigori, you have the answer.
no, I think maybe the point of the problem is that you celebrate, even if it's like you should always remember if it's right now a bad time and the bad time is passing over because something happened. Don't be too proud, don't be too happy because your happiness may have an influence on bad times again.
So it would provoke someone that is envy, for example.
Yeah, like for example, let's say it's Simchat Torah and there's
Oh,
proclamation demonstration out in the street. Don't celebrate too crazy because you can know they will do something to you if you celebrate too crazy. Maybe something like this.
Genau. Genau so.
Maybe.
maybe.
But I mean, shut up.
I have a question about Onkelos.
Yes.
Okay. And he introduced the Aramaic translation to us.
He made it, I guess.
Okay. So, and it was considered as good if he did it, right? That's why we're still reading it. That's why we didn't abolish it.
Why should we abolish? It was the
Well,
language
because,
that people were spoken.
Because Lashon HaKodesh is Hebrew and not Aramaic.
Yes, but people needs to know Torah, needs to learn Torah. So we need to translate Torah to Aramaic in order for them to understand.
Why we didn't stick on Hebrew? Why we changed on Aramaic?
Because people don't know Hebrew.
Why they forget it?
It's a question, but it's
Because-
the fact.
Because this is the point I want to make, because in Mitzrayim, the reward for the Jews living at the time in Mitzrayim was that they kept their names and their traditions and they spoke Hebrew. And this was one of the reasons because why they were redeemed earlier, right?
Uh,
And
there are midrashim about it.
Pardon?
There are midrashim about it. Yes.
Yeah, and then they got redeemed. And usually the next one should stick out more to the Holy One. So what happened that we got lost and
For example, we have the prayer Kaddish, and it's in Aramaic language. You noticed, right?
yeah, no.
I'm checking the
I
quote.
remember so often that we are so glad to get out of Mitzrayim. And one of the reasons why we get out of Mitzrayim was because we identified as Hebrews and not as Mitzrayim by our names and languages.
So it's two midrashim. במדבר רבה, למה נאמר... שיר השירים רבה, וכן ויקרא רבה, רבי הונא בשם רב כפרה אמר, בזכות ארבעה דברים נגאלו ישראל ממצרים. שלא שינו את שמם, שלא שינו את לשונם, ולא אמרו לשון הרע, ולא נמצא בהם אחד פרוץ בארבעה. Rabbi Huna, in the name of Bar Kapara, said, because of four things, Jews was saved from Egypt. They didn't change their names, they didn't change their language, they didn't spoke Lashon Hara, and there was no one from them, it's about a sexual forbidden relationship. לא שינו את שמן ראובן ושמעון נתתיך, ראובן ושמעון סלקין. So now it goes the explanation. Yes, so...
Yeah, without mitzvot, we did this, but then we got the mitzvot, and then we become
I guess
worse in all of this.
it's about the identity. So if a person knows Hebrew language, he identifies he identifies himself as a Jewish. But if he doesn't know the language, so what makes him Jewish, right? So there is nothing that makes him Jewish, so he would assimilate and forget that he is Jewish, right? So it's a little technical thing here about Egypt, right? Because if someone would forget that he is Jewish, so he doesn't get away from Egypt, he would stand there.
Yeah, but even in the time, because the book of Daniel is written in Aramaic, right?
Right. Yes.
Yeah, but even in these times they happened wonders. So why the people
So you're asking what's the difference
It- it
between
is
Aramaic and
yeah.
Egyptian language?
in the Hebrew?
So we see here that Egyptian language is bad.
Yes.
So you're asking why Egyptian is bad and Aramaic is good. This is the question. No.
Why we start to speak Aramaic?
We started to speak Aramaic because it was the official language, like for example English, for to speak. For example, if you doesn't know Hebrew, so I will speak with you in Aramaic. It was the international language there at that time.
Yeah, but you could speak two languages. So what was the matter to give up Hebrew?
Give up.
Yeah.
It's not giving up. People should learn Torah, but the question is how to organize it. For example, if there is a people that doesn't know Hebrew, so I need to organize Hebrew course, for example. Yes.
Yeah, but there was a time when nobody was, or the majority wasn't speak Hebrew anymore. Oh?
Yes, and this is the explanation why we have the text for the prayer, because we cannot speak good in Hebrew. This is why we have beautiful text to speak in Hebrew for God. I don't see nothing bad in the language of Egypt and the language of Aramaic, so I don't really understand your question. I'm saying that this string that they went out of Egypt because they didn't forget their language, it's a technical explanation, because if someone would forget his language, he would forget that he is Jewish, so he would stand in Egypt because he doesn't know that he is Jewish, right? So the technical thing to do in order to not forget that you are Jewish is to stick to your language, right?
Okay.
So it helps you. But you could also do other things. You could learn Talmud in English, for example. So you know that you are Jewish because you learn in Talmud, right? Even that you doesn't know the language, you learn it in English, right? Not convincing you.
What?
You're not convinced.
No, I'm just thinking about it.
It is important question. For example, the Schrift that we have in the written Torah, it was what's the name of the Schrift? You know that? It's called Ashuri. Ashuri. It was the country Ashur, so it was the Schrift that was used in this country. So why we are writing the Torah in this Schrift and not in original Schrift? Original Schrift was Kail Schrift, and it's called Ivri. So, but Ezra decided that it's more beautiful to write Torah in the Ashuri Schrift, so we are doing it now in Ashuri and not in original. So when Moses had Torah, it was written in another Schrift, right? For example.
But okay.
So this is the question of identity. If we're using something from the other nation, does it make us less Jewish or not? Well, apparently not.
I thought even that okay. Because, for example, I learned how we know how to build a sukkah. We learn it by the word, because every letter is showing us how we can build it up.
That's interesting. I didn't
Or,
thought about
for
it.
example, if you look at what emet, all the words are like rounded, because the truth won't form. But the opposite sheker, like lie,
Sheker,
have something round, and the lie can just keep them by their lies. because all the letters have something round and they wouldn't stand up by themselves. Because a lie is just built up by a lie.
Interesting explanation.
That's I thought, because the letters even are holy. Or
Yeah, this is a good question. The letters. So
or
about
Gematria, what we sang in Kiddushin, when the
Gematria?
holy one, we sang, be holy because I'm holy. And the difference because Kadosh and Kadosh or Kiddushin is because if the Holy One is saying he have a Vav and a Vav in his Kadosh, and our Kadosh don't have this Vav because our holiness is not like this holiness.
About Vav, there is famous Gemara about it.
Yeah, and even with the letter.
So about Vav, it's a big topic because, for example, we could write Kadosh with Vav or without Vav, but the question is how to write it in a correct way. And the question is, we know how to write it correctly or we doesn't know. So we could find it in Gemara Dushin here. I hope.
Verstehst du das?
Ich weiß nicht, was du meinst.
Ja?
Ich weiß, was du meinst.
Next.
Aber wir können auch beten, wie wir wollen.
Nein, das ist
Ja?
und Trauerschein brauchst du ein bisschen Zeit für mich.
Oh, it's here. So it's Kiddushin Lamed. So Gemara talks about the Torah and about the letters of the Torah. Lefichach nikru rishonim sofrim. Why we name in the old sages sofrim? Not rabbanim, but sofrim. Why sofrim? Gemara explains, "Shahayu sofrim kol otiyot shebatorah," because they was counting. Lisfor is to count. They was counting every letters in the Torah. Shahayu omrim, and they was saying. They was saying, for example, the verse "Kol holech al gachon" in the book of Vayikra. It's the middle of the Torah based on the letters, and the verse "Darosh Dorash Moshe v'hine sorav" is the middle of the Torah in words. V'hit galach v'edhanet kloi galech. This is the middle of the Torah with the psukim. And in the Tehillim, Yecharsemena Chazir miyar, the ayin in yar, it's the middle of Tehillim. Vehu rachum yechaper avon, it's the middle of Tehillim in psukim. So now it comes the question. By Rav Yosef, Vav de Gachon mehai gisa or mihai gisa. So we're saying that Vav in Gachon is the middle. But the question is, Vav is from the first half or from the second half? This is the question, right? Amar lei niti sefer Torah ve'eim ninhu. So other rabbis suggesting you should just bring sefer Torah and you can count, right? Milo amar Rabba bar bar Chana lo zazu misham ad sheviu sefer Torah u'menahum. And they referring to a previous case that it was similar action, similar question, and Rabba bar bar Chana said that they remained at this same place until someone brought Sefer Torah to them, and they checked and counted the matter. Amar lei. So the Gemara answers, Inhu beki bechaserot veitarot, anan lo bekinan. So the previous generations knew exactly chaser veyater, and we didn't know it. So what is chaser and what is yater? So for example, what you said about kadosh, the word kadosh, we could write in yater with vav and in chaser form, without vav. So previous generation, they knew every time we should do it with vav or without vav, and also with the yud, the same. For example, the word tzitzit, we could write it in a lot of possibilities because there is two yud. You can write it with double yud, without any yud, or with the first yud, or with the second. So 4 possibilities to write tzitzit. So previous generations, they knew how to write it correctly, but we doesn't know it. So this is the Gemara in Kiddushin. So this is very important.
Or for example, the word emet, again, you have Aleph, Mem, Taf. Aleph is the first letter of the
alphabet.
Mem is exactly the middle.
Oh, this is
And
beautiful.
the Taf is the last one because the truth is everything. And so I thought the language is speaking also more to the letter. That's what we are using. I know that Ezra introduced it.
Introduced
but
what?
This letter is what we are using today.
He took it from
But I didn't know
another
he took it
country.
from another country.
It's called Ashuri. Ktav Ashuri. Oh, about Gematria, it's Mishnah in Pirkei Avot, Gimel Yudchet. Rabbi Eliezer ben Chisma אומר, כינינו פתחי נידה הן גופי הלכות, תקופות וגימטריות, פרפראות לחוכמה. So Gematria is parperet. Parperet is something that you eat with bread. So Chokhmah, the wisdom is like the bread. So this is the main thing. And Gematria is parparot lechokhmah. So it's something additional for the bread.
Oh, okay.
So for example, what you said about the Sukkah. So we know the law of Sukkah. We know the law. We know it by tradition. And this is the main thing that we have. We could write it or we could use it orally. But this Gematria is an additional thing.
Okay.
So it's not the source of the law that we learn from the specific letters. The source of the law, and it's also that we learn on 13 principles of faith, that every Moshe at Sinai, he received all the Torah, both written Torah and also the law of the oral Torah. So this is the source of the law, is the tradition that we have from Moshe. And in the first Mishnah in Pirkei Avot, Moshe קיבל תורה מסיני ומסרה אל יהושע, יהושע לזקנים, וזקנים לנביאים, ונביאים מסרוה לאנשי כנסת הגדולה. So Moses had the Torah and he gave it to Yeshua, and Yeshua for zkenim, for the elder, for the sages, and sages for Nevi'im, prophets, and prophets pass on the Torah to Anshe Knesset Gdula. So Anshe Knesset Gdula is already the time of Mishnah, and prophets, it's the written Torah. So in Mishnah we talk about what Anshe Knesset Gdula teach us. Yes. It's very important.
Mm-hmm. Thank you.
So we're ending for today.